Hey, what's up guys, TechTine here, and this is my 3-month review with the Galaxy A16 as a user. So I've been using this phone on and off for 3 months. Before I begin, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned, be subscribed. I have a lot of great content coming really soon. But with that being said, one of the first things that I want to talk about when it comes to the Galaxy A16 3 months later is the design itself. So the back has this kind of glossy material that does catch fingerprints and dust a lot, especially if you look where it is around the camera. You can see like there's dust and lint that this phone just catches. I'm not the biggest fan of glossy material, but it is what it is. If you look at the right hand side, you will see your power button, volume up and down, and also this crease that leads up to those power button and volume up and down. The power button does double up as a fingerprint sensor, which is fairly okay. It's not the most accurate or the fastest, but it works. I do have to say that this crease is kind of annoying, especially when it comes to actually reaching your buttons, which was kind of annoying, but I can't say that I fully got used to it, but it's there. I lived with it. If you look at the bottom hand side of the phone, you will see that the A16 did not have a headphone jack, which did not really bother me because I don't really use a headphone jack anyway. You will have your USB-C and your bottom facing speaker as well as your microphone. Now, from a durability standpoint, I do have to say that I accidentally dropped the A16 one time from a small height, and the plastics on the side of the phone did get damaged, so the border of the phone did get damaged, but the screen was fine. So yeah, from a durability standpoint, because of the plastic all around the phone, it's not going to be the most durable phone, but it works. For a $199 phone, it works. Now, I do have to also say that this is basically it for the design. It's not going to be the most stellar design or something that will be eye-catching. I wish Samsung would change its design perspective, but that's just what we get with the A16. Now, if you look at the display of this phone, this is definitely the A16's best asset, and this does have one of the best displays that you can get on the market for $199. As far as competition goes, the Motorola Moto G 5G only uses a 720p panel that is a IPS, so not even a 1080p, so that beats that. And any phone that is $199, I don't think it has the same display quality, and I'm talking about phones that came out in 2025. Now, if I were to nitpick about the display, it would be the fact that it does have this kind of reflective material to it that makes it a little bit intrusive, but that's just me nitpicking at this point. And a lot of people may hate on the larger bezels and the raindrop notch, but I got used to it. It's not the end of the world. I still get a 90 Hz refresh rate display and a high quality 1080p AMOLED display, which means that when it came to watching videos, going through social media, anything that requires me to basically use the phone worked really well on this device. Now, as far as burn-ins and things like that, 3 months later, I didn't really have any issues with it. So this display is definitely at least worth considering the Galaxy A16 for. Now, when it comes to the camera setup, you will get a triple camera setup, and I do have a full camera review in the I'll leave a link in the description below. But basically, you get a triple camera setup, you get a main sensor, ultra wide, and a macro sensor. So the 50 megapixel main sensor, I do have to say, for $199, keep your expectations at a minimum. It takes some usable pictures. So the pictures out of this phone do come out kind of washed a little bit. They're not as color accurate or as saturated as a lot of these Samsung phones can be, and in some scenarios the contrast may be dimmed down, but the addition of the main sensor and the ultra wide is a nice touch from Samsung, since the previous generation did not have that. The dynamic range on this phone is fair. There's quite a bit of noise, but it's not the end of the world. So taking pictures that would be usable is something that I think for the average consumer would be fine. Now, low light photography on this phone is absolutely trash. Like, it's really bad. I wouldn't even use it, but here's your sample. The selfie camera is also pretty decent. It's definitely improved from the previous generation. The video quality is fine. In some scenarios, it does tend to overexpose, and it doesn't really keep a consistent exposure throughout using this phone. But as far as I'm concerned, like I said, it works. It does max out at 1080p, but I do have to give it a kind of upper hand because you can actually switch from your rear-facing video to your front-facing video all simultaneously without switching the camera off and taking another video, which is a feature that I wish a lot more phones had. So this is definitely something that I do have to give props to Samsung for giving us on the Galaxy A16. Okay, so something that I did not like on this phone 3 months later is the performance. This phone is extremely slow 3 months later. Oh, well, okay, extremely is something that I exaggerated, but it's definitely slow. So 3 months later, this phone did experience some slowdowns. I can't say that it got hot while kind of using intensive apps, but I would not even use intensive apps to begin with because it's not going to perform well. Light games on here work fine, but consistent performance is something that don't expect it with this phone. It glitches, it gets slower. Sometimes apps crash. So I see why this phone costs 200 bucks. Now, to add insult to injury, the international version actually gives you more RAM, so you get 8 gigs of RAM, and also double the storage of the US model. So that's something that's annoying, but that's just what you get. And it actually performs better in synthetic benchmarks, and I'm talking about the international version. So yeah, if you want a better performing A16, try and get your hands on the international unlocked model. I don't know how well it's going to work with your carrier, but that's the route that I would take. Now, all in all, though, I do have to say that as far as I'm concerned, the competition out there is definitely strong. But for $199, you do get a solid display, and the performance throughout all phones that cost 200 bucks is going to be very similar. But I feel like because this phone's kind of boring design, especially if you have something like the Galaxy A15 from the previous generation, unless you want a larger display, it just doesn't make sense for you to upgrade because everything else seems to be very familiar and very similar. So with that being said, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I want to hear from the actual users of the Galaxy A16. And if you are a user, let me know, how do you feel about this phone and how long have you had it for? Do you like it? Do you hate it? And yeah, with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I do appreciate you guys for subscribing, staying tuned, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next video. Thank you all for watching.